Hello and welcome to our video. My name is Dionne Kress, and with me is Brian Kempisty, the founder and owner of Portex Logistics, and I am the Chief Heart Officer with Portex Logistics. Brian and I are going to talk today about transparency and leadership. So Brian, I'm going to just have you start by talking about the certification that we have achieved this week, and we're going to kind of loop transparency, the culture, and transparency and leadership into that certification a little bit. So let's kind of talk about that today.
Yeah, we were awarded Greatest Places to Work for the second year in a row. And I don't know what our score was year one, but it was pretty consistent year one over year two. And we scored a 93 this year, which is amongst the highest of any company across the country that is small to medium-sized business. And I don't know if that's businesses under 100 million or what the size determiner is, but it's pretty awesome that we scored 93 is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I would agree. From your perspective, being the owner of the company, why do you think, so this was a survey, for those who don't know, of the company culture and asking all the employees about whether or not Portex was the greatest place to work, and scoring the 93 is pretty high. So from your perspective, why do you think we scored so high? Because you work really hard on creating a culture so that people have a cool experience. So
yeah, I think, we've got our core values that we set, that I think are really important for delivering that wow service to the customer and making it a fun atmosphere. We always talk about create a fun and family atmosphere and bring the weird. So I think, that really helps. One of the other things that makes it a great place to work is when you're collecting accolades, what we call bingos, every single day from your customers. It's more fun than getting beat up, right? So that quality of work that leads to customer bingos also relates to the satisfaction of employees. So it's way better. We just got off a call with one of our biggest customers, and he compared us to his own internal trucking department versus Portex. And he's like, yeah, I mean, my internal team asks, well, why do you use Portex instead of us internally? He's like, because you get a C and they get an A+. So it's just more fun to be the guys that get the A+ from your customer.
Yeah. Well, being the Chief Heart Officer, working with the leadership team and the entire team, I want to just talk a little bit about transparency, because I feel like that has led to your success in terms of winning that award and people's high level of satisfaction. I feel like we talk a lot about being human. If anyone's followed us on these videos, we do talk about the human factor in business. And I think transparency is about being human and expressing vulnerabilities and openly communicating. And I think one of the things you do really well is just present the reality on a regular basis.
Yeah, the good, the bad, the numbers. Internally, we do our call twice a week. We share the numbers. Everybody knows how many loads we're moving, where we're at from a revenue perspective, how the company is performing, rather than hiding that in the back office. We want to share that, and we want them to know that they're part of something bigger. And if they grow, the organization grows, then they get to grow individually. So, I've always believed in that transparency, and people are going to know anyways. They know how much work they're doing, right? So what are we hiding it for?
Right.
Another thing, as far as transparency goes, even externally in the marketplace, and whether it be our industry, our competitors, our employees, I'll tell anybody all of our standard operating procedures, what technology that we're using, what our core values are, because at Portex, it's about the execution of all that, right? We stick to the plan, with the plan, follow up. You're there to support the people and hold them accountable to everything that we talk about. So I'm always an open book. Here's the plan. If you can execute it better than me, go for it.
I think that's one of the things that you've taught me, right? Don't necessarily fear your competition, right? If they can do it better, hey, go for it, right? Mm-hmm. But trying to create the experience from the employee side, create the experience from the customer side. That's the hardest part, right? The human factor of business. And I often say no humans, no business. And I think that's the one thing that you do really well. And my coaching with the leadership team, we've kind of brought that all full circle. I also want to just talk about relatability. I feel like our leadership team is pretty young, and I just think they're really relatable. So if I was in the office the last couple of days, you guys are firing on all cylinders. And I just think everyone is just really relatable, right? They're reaching out. People are jumping in when they need to jump in. We talked about Tom kind of pulling his desk in next to someone, helping them move freight. That's kind of blowing up a little bit. And I don't think you would typically see that in most companies, with the leadership team just jumping right back into the mix of it.
Normally you just let them drown. I'm not leaving my office to go over there and get my hands dirty. They just let people drown. And
even
I think
you jumped in this week.
Yeah, but we all come from operators, we all come from a background of, just doing work, wanting to work hard, collect those accolades. And, we've never come out of, this certain MBA program with any expectation. Our expectation is we're just going to try to do good work, and have some fun. And hopefully at the end of the year, we've made a little bit of money too.
That's the bonus, right?
Yeah.
The other place I feel like, if we talk about just being human and relatable, I often ask the leadership team to give feedback as it relates to my coaching notes. So every time I meet with someone on the team, I provide a coaching summary that loops all of you guys in, so you kind of know what we're working on and where everyone's growing. And this week, I felt like one of our members of our team, Jill, had provided some really good feedback, making herself vulnerable and very relatable. Did you read some of those summaries that she provided?
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when an employee can relate to a person in a level of leadership like Jill, it just makes them feel so much more comfortable and like, okay, I want to do more. I want to work harder for this person because, hey, they're in the thick of it with me too. And they're struggling just like I am, or working on some things just like I am, so I can be better and more effective in my role.
Yeah, I think everybody's always willing to jump in, get our hands dirty. I remember Stan came to Montana. He wanted to go fly fishing, so he was out. But we got an emergency call from one of our best customers. 8 o'clock at night, we popped out the laptop, fired it up. She needed a truck picked up that night on a Saturday night to deliver on a Sunday, and we got it done. And that was me and Stan. And then I was like, Tom, I can't get this load in the computer. This is 11 o'clock his time. Can you do it? He picks up the phone. Gotcha. We got it covered. Don't worry about it. So I think just everybody has that, and we enjoy it too. Like we, for us, there's no disdain. Like, why are you bothering me? That's part of the thrill that we get.
And I think every layer of the leadership team does that, right? So in the PortX offices, everyone's kind of in the same room, or we've called it the pit. I call it out on the floor, and everyone can hear and see what everyone's doing, right? And so there's transparency in that regard too. So if someone's struggling or drowning, other people are always jumping in, and I see that on a regular basis on the floor. People walking around, hey, how you doing? What can I do? The walking leadership that we talk about. So within the PortX culture, kind of going back to winning the greatest places to work, the culture is very transparent, which I think in today's day and age, employees are very open and respectful of that. And it helps them to increase their trust within the organization, right? There's no unknowns. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but when you and the leadership team kind of put everything out there for them to see, I think it gives people a sense of security, and they trust and respect all of you.
Yeah, and I try to check in with them on a regular basis, like anybody. You're new hire, you're in accounts receivable, you're, operations manager. I try to check in with everybody really often, and everybody, whether it's myself or anybody on the leadership team, everybody's phone numbers. There's no like, oh, let me, put my work phone away and I'll get my personal phone out. Like, we don't do any of that crap. It's like, hey, if you need something, we're here, call us.
Right. And even for myself in my position with all of you guys, I get texts during the weekend like, hey, do you have a minute to talk? I'm just having a moment, or, texting me pictures of their children and their vacation or wherever they are. So it's really cool how everyone feels that connection, and there aren't those layers of leadership where people are like, oh, not so sure I can call Brian. In my sessions all the time, I tell people to call you and say, hey, call and ask Brian. He knows the answer way better than I could possibly ever relay it to you. So is there anything else as it relates to transparency within the Portex culture that you feel would be important for other leaders or developing companies to know?
Just don't be afraid. People have all these crazy fears and conspiracy theories, and somebody's going to steal the information. And just, if you do good work and you take good care of the people, it all works out in the end, right? So sure. People worry about this stuff way too much. And I think if we do our job as leaders, it's just all non-warranted.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I respect most about working with you and the leadership team, is that just be the best human you can be and the rest will fall into place. And clearly, where you guys started, like the beginning of the pandemic to where you are now in terms of business growth, is phenomenal. And I think it's just because of the support and the connection and the communication and the transparency and just showing people love. We talk about love at Portex a lot, that everyone is just really feeling like there's a family unit there, and people are just, you guys are killing it.
And when you need something, last Friday, it was bonkers. And everybody stayed until it was done. So there was the entire group stayed and supported each other and supported Pat and Jill and whoever else was working on the project. And they weren't leaving until it was complete, which was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, that's very cool. So anything else that you want to add to that today?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So I guess I would just say, as a leadership coach working with your organization and having worked with other organizations in the past, I think that transparency is probably one of the key things that I've seen as being most effective with your organization, and getting engagement from every single employee and making each person feel safe and respected and part of the process. And you said earlier, being part of something bigger than themselves. Every time I meet individually with someone, we do the twice a month check-ins. They're like, I want to be with Portex forever, right? I want to grow with this company. And they're like, I don't want to work at some of those other businesses, right?
Yeah.
They have friends and family that work other places, and they're like, yeah, that does not feel good. And people this week specifically, I've heard a few people say, like, I get up in the morning and I'm like, I'm ready to go to work. Like, it's not like, the drudgery of having to get up and go to work. People want to be there.
Yeah.
And
we always say it's supposed to be fun, right?
Exactly.
So you can celebrate your successes, and it's supposed to be fun every single day. 'Cause I wouldn't want to go to work for 10 hours and just get beat up. That sucks.
And like you said, we're at these places, or our jobs, or doing whatever we do 10 hours a day. It's like, it should be enjoyable and goofy. And yesterday we had a moment where I rang the bell and either scared the crap out of some people, but it like lifted up the spirits. Like, everyone just kind of moved away from their desks, and it was actually quite humorous if you were in the office, but everyone just needed that break, right? Just kind of moving around the office, laughing and doing some funny things just to let off some steam. So that's another thing we encourage, like the silliness, which is great because people sometimes need to do that and not worry about being judged. So, all right. Well, thank you for everyone for watching our video. Please like this link and subscribe to the channel below. And for more information on Portex Logistics and my role as a Chief Heart Officer, check out the description below in the box. Have a great day, everybody.